Hello and welcome to News Across Nigeria. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Coming up on the program, the Catholic Church in Benue State calls on the federal government to increase security in communities. President Muhammadu Buhari arrives in Bauchi State on the start of his two-day working visit. And rainstorm destroys homes in Enugu State. People of Enugu State are reeling from the shock of that natural disaster as far as the rainstorm is concerned, but we'll get to that story later. Thank you so much for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated the newly constructed 2.5-kilometer Awala roundabout, Giwa Road in Bauchi State, as he begins his two-day working visit there. Shortly after the inauguration of the project, the president paid a courtesy call to the palace of the Emir of Bauchi, where the Emir appealed to him to fast-track the construction of the Kafin Zaki Dam, relocate the Bauchi Federal Prison Yard to a suitable location, and then dualize the Bauchi to Jos and Gombe Road. The president's arrival at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Airport in Bauchi State was greeted with a warm welcome. The state capital this morning, he was received by Governor Mohammed Abubakar and his counterpart from Adamawa State, Mohammed Jibrila, and other members of the Bauchi State Cabinet. He's also expected to inaugurate the Air Force Referral Hospital and flag off the distribution of farming implements to peasant farmers in the state. The Senate has summoned President Muhammadu Buhari to appear before it over repeated killings across the country. The upper legislative chamber says it agreed with their counterparts in the House of Representatives, who've also summoned the president to explain measures being taken to address security issues. The Senate has also directed its Committee on Judiciary to find out if any infraction was committed by President Muhammadu Buhari in his approval and direction for the release of $496 million for the purchase of Super Tucano fighter jets for the military. The Senate made the resolution after the chairman, Senate Committee on Public Accounts, Senator Matthew Ohogile, asked the Senate President to invoke Section 143 of the Constitution following the President's approval of the extra budgetary spending of $496 million. Section 143 deals with the impeachment of the President. The call for impeachment of President Buhari is also backed by Senators Chukwuka Otazi and Sam Anyanwu. But Senator Abu Ibrahim disagrees with the call for impeachment, arguing that since the establishment of the excess crude account, no government has ever sent a formal request to the National Assembly for approval before appropriation of funds. The Senate consequently directed its Committee on Judiciary to find out if indeed President Muhammadu Buhari committed any infraction and report to the Senate on Wednesday, May the 3rd. In the meantime, the national executives of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria have held a peace-building meeting with cattle herders and farmers in Edo State. At that meeting, the leaders of the association restated their commitment to help fish out criminals posing as herdsmen and causing havoc in some communities in the state. The meeting was initiated by the Edo State Police Command.
Attendees taking their positions as chief officers and men of the Edo State Police Command host this gathering of members of the National Executive of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, representatives of cattle herders, cattle dealers and farmers in Edo State, in Benin City, the state capital.
A lot of solutions will be provided to these problems emanating from herders to farmers relationship in Edo State.
As it's a meeting meant to strengthen relations among the cattle herders, dealers and farmers in the state, the National Secretary of MACBAN clarifies issues that had weighed heavily on the minds of those present.
If you see them moving freely with dangerous weapons, these guys must be cattle rustlers. They are moving with their stolen cattle, and on the way while moving, if they see any husband with his cow, they collect, kill him, continue to move. We suffer from them. We have settled with our people, we have sensitized them, and it is our hope that as from now on, things will begin to change.
The Edo State Commissioner of Police sees this measure as a big step in maintaining the peace in communities within the state.
The farmers are able to do their legitimate farming without fear that they will be attacked by the herders, and the herders are equally able to do their herding without unnecessary fears that the farmers will attack them. So we have chosen to bring in the leadership of the Cattle Breeders Association and of course the leadership of the Cattle Dealers Association to come and actually address the problem of criminals amongst the herders.
It's a view similar to that of the farmers present, as one of them from urban community in Edo State explains.
Yeah, they have assured me that I should go home to tell my people to go on farming. Before then, we are apprehensive. We fear to go and farm. So it means if we farm and they destroy it, we will have people to report to. So that is a step forward.
The association strongly believes that exploring the avenue of mediation, as it is done through this meeting and other steps, will see the restoration of peace to the relationship between cattle herders and farmers in Edo State. Jessica Olugose, Channels Television News.
In the southeast region of the country, residents of Agbogugu in Ogu local government area are already counting their losses following the Monday and Tuesday night rainstorm in their community, although no life was lost. The storm was said to have pulled down over 100 homes, schools, destroying farm crop and other public facilities, running into millions of naira. Meanwhile, the state government has begun the distribution of relief materials to the affected families, assuring them of its commitment to an immediate reintegration back to society.
It is now 3 days since a rainstorm wreaked havoc on Agbogugu community in Agu local government area of Enugu State. Homes, schools, business places were not spared while the disaster lasted. No life was lost, but many residents are still struggling to come to terms with the level of damage.
There was a heavy wind that came with the rain. So when we noticed it, we want to come out, but the thing was too much. We couldn't even come out. So the next thing we saw was our roof. We didn't see our roof again. You get? Then the kitchen side, the thing just scattered everything. Then took our roof to the next compound.
There was what I may describe as cyclonic wind that eventually took off, and almost all the 9 villages we have in Abu were visited by this disaster. We are calling on government and other relevant agencies to come to the community for help.
Concerned with the loss of homes for some and means of livelihood for others, the state governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi visits the area to assess the situation. He orders for the immediate release of relief materials to the victims.
When we got the call about the rainstorm that occurred in Agbogugu community in Enugu State, we quickly activated our emergency response team that got to the scene of the disaster, and we carried out an on-the-spot assessment of the level of damage that occurred in the city. And thereafter, His Excellency directed the State Emergency Management Agency to provide relief materials for the affected persons, essentially to cushion the effects of the disaster that occurred in the community.
The victims say they are grateful for the quick response from the government. They further appeal that strategies are put in place for the State Emergency Management Agency, which is in charge of the distribution, to ensure the relief items get to those they are meant for.
You're watching news across Nigeria. Coming up, security, or rather insecurity, in Benue State remains a major concern. Please stay with us.